welcome back to Wardy's Works. I'm going to do a quick video since we've been selling this on a buyer's guide if you're buying a Discovery 2, to make sure that you know what you're looking at and you know what you're looking for when you're buying one. So we'll just go over what we look at when we buy one. First thing is, obviously, when you get to the car, have a look around it. When we bought this one, it was very scratched, so have a look at the paintwork, see if there's any scratches, any dents, see if there's anything you're going to have to do on the outside of the car, and start front to back, so you don't miss anything. So first at the front, we'd start with the lights. On the newer Disco with the plastic headlights and the facelift, you'll find that these are plastic and they do get really misty and fogged up, so you're going to have to see whether you're going to be able to clean them or whether you'd have to replace the lights, because they're pretty expensive and they're hard to find. On these, they're glass, so what you'll find is this one's okay, this one has got a crack in it. Not an MOT fail, but obviously there's a bit of what's that called? Bit of steaming in there. So check the lights. Also fog lights if it's got them. This is an AS, so it's got the fog lights. When we bought this, it had got one that was full of mud because the housing had cracked, so you may have to replace them. You're looking about a tenner for the ones on this. How much was the ones on your Disco?
Second hand, then 100 quid each.
100 quid for fog lights for the facelifted Disco. So have a look at them as well, because they tend to go. You always find that on these, the bumpers on the corners, because they're a big car, will normally be scratched. So these do get scratched and scuffed up, so make sure that the corners are more right. As for the facelift fog lights, you're looking off the internet. If you want to buy a new set, they do sell them on eBay and stuff like that for around 40 quid for a pair. New ones, genuine ones, you're going to be looking over 100 quid, I would have thought.
13, 5, 6,
Hang on,
4,
that's more.
13, 3.
That's it. Also, you'll find that this stuff here on the arches, that plastic gets all attacked by the sun, it goes all grey. So that needs sanding down and painting, so check that, because you will have to do that to make it look nice. Obviously tyres, as on any car, check the tread on the tyres. Make sure that you've got tread on there. Make sure all your shut lines are fine on the bonnet. Make sure that it hasn't been closed on a screwdriver or like we did. What did you close it on there?
Engine bracket that we took off.
Oh yeah, we took a bracket off somewhere, left it on the bonnet and closed it on my dad's, and it did bend the bonnet hinge, so check the shut lines as well. And then obviously you got the engine and stuff to look at, but we're just going around the body at the moment. Check the mirrors, check that the mirrors fold when you're inside the car. Some fold, some don't. This has got electric folding mirrors, only one of them folds because this has been clattered by something. But it's not a new car, you've got to expect them sort of things. Check for scratches and stuff like that. That one's all the way through the lacquer, it won't polish out. Small ones like this probably will polish out if you want to go with them. They generally get scratched all down here when you've been off-roading, so check the lights as well. Check you've got no cracks in these, because you get cracks in this area around here and you'll get them steamed up as well. Check that the rear door opens well, because there's a lot of weight with the spare tyre on there, and sometimes they may struggle to open and close and shut properly. You have to sort of lift them to shut them, so check that. Check these lights, because when they reverse, generally they'll reverse into something and smash them, so check them are okay. Tail bar electrics, there's not a lot you can do about it, so you can't really check the tail bar electrics if you haven't bought a trailer with you, which not many people will. This is electric opening, so check that, because a lot of time these won't open, and you just have to pop it open. They're easy to pop open with you know, a coin or something like that. You can pop them open quite easily, so just check them as well. Also, you can get up on the back and check the sunroofs, check the seals around the sunroofs. These sunroofs have been sealed on this one, but just check them as well. So we'll have a look under the bonnet and inside. So the bonnet catch on a Disco 2 is on the passenger side, and it's just down there. So you want to pop the bonnet, and under the R, if it's in the right place, there's the catch release, so I'll lift that up, and then it's just up there for that. So when you're under the bonnet, you want to obviously check the oil. On the TD5, the oil cap's under there, so you'd open that and check for any milky residue. Make sure there's no water in the oil, or no. Check the water and make sure there's no oil in the water. There's nothing floating on top of that, so you know your head gasket hasn't gone. Good thing to do as well is to pull the dipstick. Have a look at the colour of the oil. Make sure it's not too light. Make sure it is diesel oil coloured, which is going to be dark. Also smell the dipstick. Have a smell of that. Sniff, sniff, and check whether it's got any diesel smell, because if it's got a diesel smell, you've either got bad injector seals, which are going to cost you what's a set of injector seals now?
Genuine ones,
yeah,
50 quid a set.
50 quid a set for the rubbers and the copper seals. So check that, because that's going to be expensive. And if it isn't the seals, it could be a cracked head, which is going to be in the region of 400 quid if you do it yourself. So make sure you check that. Check the TD5 is renowned for oil in the ECU wiring loom, so check down there for any oil. Make sure there's no oil down there. You can pull the ECU out, 2 screws, pop that out and have a look in the loom. Make sure that there's no oil in the connector. You can check the years of batteries and things like that, but obviously by starting the car you're going to know if the battery's doing well or not. Check around the radiator for leaks. Check for any coolant you can see around there. You'll normally see it start to dry a pinky colour or something like that. So check all that. Check around the head gasket if you can get this off with a couple of 14 mils, I think it is, maybe 15. Step that off. Have a look around the rocker cover gasket. Make sure that there's no leaks around there. Make sure the engine's nice and dry and there's no leaks anywhere over the engine. From inside here you can see the bushes on the shock mount, so you can have a look at them. Make sure they don't look perish from up here, and have a look at the turrets that the shock sit in, because they can start to go as well, so have a look at them. That's your ABS pump. Make sure there's no leaks from there. This is just power steering fluid, so have a look inside there and make sure that there's some in it, and make sure that because if there's none in there it's probably leaking. This is for your ACE, which controls the suspension. So you've got the active suspension on this one. That just keeps spinning. You've got the active suspension on this one, so check you've got fluid in there as well. Like I said before, check your water, check the level of that. If you look down there when you start the engine later on, you can look down there, not that you can see at the moment, but have a look down there and check that all your pulleys are turning straight and there's no wobble on any of the pulleys, because you don't want a wobbly crankshaft pulley or anything else down there. You've got your aircon, you've got your alternator and everything that's down there. You can see that's the turbo there. So this is a turbo actuator, so you can see, make sure that this is all moving like it should be. That's your MAF sensor. Make sure that they're all plugged in. The MAF's plugged in, the ambient temperature sensor there's plugged in. You might want to check if it's got a air filter in it, because this one hadn't. So check there's an air filter in there as well. So under the engine bar, I don't think there's anything else under there, is there really, Dad? Not to check under there. You've got your brake fluid as well. That's just your normal stuff. But the things that you're going to find on a TD5 is definitely check the inside the ECU, and definitely check the pulleys. But there's nothing else really major that'll go down here. Check for all the legs and stuff, but you can do that underneath, and you can obviously check your brake fluid as well. Make sure that there's some brake fluid in it, and that's all there. These are the connectors to your heated screen, so if it's got heated screen you'll see the connectors there, so you can tell from that as well. If the heated screen's not working, sometimes them can have moisture in them, so check that down there. So we'll move on quickly to what's underneath. Underneath the car, obviously check the ground. If it's been on that ground for a while, check whether there's oil leaks under the ground. You're going to have to get your head under it, so bring a mat, have a look underneath, check around the gearbox, check around the transfer box under there, just check if anything's wet. You've got your power steering box up there as well. Check on the bottom of the pitman arm and see if there's anything. You can see the bushes and stuff as well. Make sure they're okay. Make sure that it's not wet on the end of either of the CV joints, because you don't want to have to change any of that. And check your gaiters. You can see the radius arms, check them, that end and at the other end, and check the exhaust. You can also check your suspension components and stuff while you're under here, but main thing is oil leaks. You don't want oil leaks, and you can check the front of the chassis as well. So have a look at the front of the chassis while you're under there. Go around to the wheels. You can check the disc brakes. Make sure that they haven't got big lips on the disc brakes. You can't see the pads well, but you can sort of tell from the last MOT. You can, if you get your finger in there, you can sort of feel if there's anything on that. Do that on all four. Get underneath at the side and check the chassis. You're going to find some surface corrosion probably, which they've all got, but you don't want to find any holes, which this hasn't got. So have a look under there anyway. Have a look at your exhaust. Make sure your exhaust is all together and working. Then one of the main things with these is the rear quarter at the back. So check the rear quarter. This one's all nice, as you can see there. It's been under sealed. But yeah, check the rear quarter. Check it for holes, because that's where they tend to go. So I'll check that as well. I'm inside the car now. Check the sunroof doesn't leak. Check the floor, carpet's down there in the corner. Make sure that's not wet, because it can run down the A-pillar and it can come from around the top of the screen. So make sure they're okay. Make sure the headline is not sagging, which this one's not because it's been took out and painted. So make sure that doesn't sag. Heated seats, make sure they come on. The lights will probably come on, but the driver's tends not to work because it's used a lot. But the lights will come on and stay on. Check all the windows work. You don't want to have to do one of them motors. You've got your fog lights up here. You've got your rear window wiper, front window wiper, front squirters there, your horn. These tend to pop out, so I'll check them as well. Your clock, a lot of them don't work, this one does. Check your radio's working. If it isn't and the clock's not working and the interior light's not working, if all of them are not working together, it could be a fuse. These are normally unplugged and the sunroofs are normally sealed, so they probably won't work, which they don't on a lot of them. Check all your electric seats work, if it's electric seats down there, so make sure they all work. You don't want to be doing one of them, that could be expensive. And check all your lights are coming on and everything's working there as well. When you start the car, you want to go through all the gears, because you can have a problem with the what's it called, XYZ switch, which will stop it switching into the gear. As we were saying with the gears, if your reverse is playing up, or if when you start the car and you put it into reverse or drive, you get the two M&S on there with the little cog pictures, that shows that your XYZ switch is playing up. It can be fixed. You have to go into the car, pull it out and clean it out. It's a bit of an awkward job, or you can buy a new one and chuck a new one in there. Put them there, that cheap, aren't they?
No, it's 300 quid.
Yeah, so that's something to watch. Also, you get the 3 amigos, so check on the dash that you've got no lights coming up for the 3 amigos. Make sure they don't come on, because that can be it can be ABS sensor, it can be air suspension, it can be all sorts of stuff. Make sure if it's still got air suspension that it still works. If it's been put on springs and you've got the 3 amigos on, odds am they haven't done the bypass to tell the computer that it's on springs and not on the air, so that can be a bit of a nightmare to sort out as well. Check your high and low box, so make sure that your driver's in high and low. You have to put it in neutral to swap it between high and low. Some of these have got diff lock, some haven't. This is an auto without a diff lock. If it has got a diff lock's to the side. Make sure that's working, and the differentials locking. You've got all your stuff in here. Make sure all this sort of crap works. Does that not work? That does work, but it's spring loadedness. How this spring is it used to be good. What do you want for 20 odd years old? Make sure that your heater works. These are renowned for a noisy heater when it's on full blast, which is this one's got a 90% of got. But just make sure it gives out hot air. You've got dual climate control in there. This one has also got the independent air conditioning in the back that comes through the headliner. Check your seats. Driver's seat tends to be absolutely battered. This driver's seat is in pretty good nick with just a small crack which could be repaired. When your stereo's on, check all your speakers are working, and you can also check if it's got a multi-changer, which this one has 6 CD multi-changer, and a tape deck, old school. But yeah, it's got one of them in there, so check all that as well. The other thing to check on these is the rear wheel arches. Make sure that they aren't rusty. because that'll be a nightmare. But the big thing with Land Rovers is rust and oil leaks, so that's what you want to make sure that it hasn't got, and make sure that it runs well. Wheel arches here, that's where they tend to rust, so check around there as well. Obviously, as with any car, when you start it up, check that it starts well. Check that it doesn't smell like a beast. You might have some smoke, a little bit of white stuff in the winter, which is probably going to be a bit of condensation that's sitting in the exhaust if it hasn't run for a while. But other than that, anything else you can think of that to check?
No, really.
It's difficult to check the heated screen unless the screen's misted, because a lot of time only half of them work. This one, both full screen works on this one. Yeah, in the rear, this one did have, it looks like it had 7 seats in it at some stage, and now it's got 5 seats in there, so you need to know whether you want the 7 or the 5. The carpet's been changed in the back. They can rust on the boot floor, so I don't know whether they'll let you take the carpet off because it's a bit of a nightmare, but you have to take this strip out and this strip out, unscrew it to get the carpet up, but they might not let you do that. So you don't want to have a rusty boot floor either.
Also, listen for the fuel pump,
which is around there, so listen for the fuel pump. You don't want it to be super noisy. If the car's got very little fuel in it, it probably will be noisy, but if the car's got, you know, over the low limit with the light on, then it shouldn't be noisy. It should just make no noise. Go and start the car quickly then. Let's look at the smoke out the exhaust and stuff. When you put the key in, check that the key turns easy, because a lot of these barrels are knackered, so check that the key turns easy. Make sure that the light, once you've turned the key, goes off, the little flashing light, to make sure that there's not a problem with the immobiliser. And now start the car, and there you go, just a little tiny puff of smoke, nothing major. It's running nice and smooth and flat, it's not misfiring, so just check all that. And obviously once you got it up running, get the bonnet up and have a look under there at all your pulleys and stuff, and then on your test drive, keep your windows open, check out for any knocking and stuff like that. You don't want any of that coming from round ball joints and stuff, so check all that out as well. But yeah, that's most things you're going to have to look for on one of these, so I hope this helps you out. This one's for sale, 2,750 quid. It is on eBay at the moment, so have a look for that.